going to be a nurse, I'm going to blah, blah, blah. She was going to be all kinds of things. And she was never going to stay in this area. But guess what? She's still in this area and she's in nursing school. So these are my two children.
We need an updated picture.
I know that one's a couple years old, but that's okay. All right, so the first thing, before I tell you about me and nursing, I want to hear about you. So what are the things that you all are thinking about pursuing? That helps me sort of tailor my thoughts and what I share with you. So I know we have one nurse in the room already.
There's like 6 in my class.
All right, who wants to be a nurse? Let's start with just a nurse. One? Oh, wow.
Twinsies.
Okay, oh, we got one down here too. Who wants to be in the healthcare profession? Okay, so what do you want to do?
Psychology. I'm going to be a licensed therapist.
Okay, excellent. Oh, we need psych mental health people. I was talking over there, just talking to her. Psych mental health is one of those fields that if you get into the field of psychology and you're like, I really want to be more something else, you can be a psych mental health nurse. Yeah. What else? Who? Yeah. A hospice nurse, okay. So you got to become a registered nurse first in order to be a hospice nurse, okay. Who else? What you want to do? Athletic trainer, excellent. That's what my youngest daughter started out. And she shifted. And there are a number of people that start out in athletic training and end up in nursing or psychology or other. But excellent, good for you. We need good athletic trainers to prevent people from needing to see nurses and physicians and PAs and nurse practitioners. Who else? Who's got healthcare profession? Anybody else? Anybody doing occupational therapy, physical therapy?
I used to work in a nursing home.
Yeah, Ethan used to work in a nursing home.
You used to work in a nursing home, so you know what it's like to take care of geriatrics or people with chronic, long-term illnesses. That's a tough environment. Yeah, because, you know, I don't know about you, but it's hard to imagine yourself or someone you love being in that situation. It's hard.
My buddy's grandma was in there, so.
Your grandma was in there?
No, my buddy's grandma. That's the only one I really knew in there.
Okay. So nursing homes, we have a great need for geriatric nursing. A great need, because, you know, we all get older. At least we hope we do, right? It's better than the alternative. Yeah. Okay, good. Anybody else? Okay, so any other healthcare things? So we got psychology, we got nursing, we got hospice, we got athletic trainer. Anybody want to be a physician?
Maybe.
Maybe. Maybe.
I want to do like 3 things.
That's okay. That's all right. Live big. What are your 3 things?
Real estate agent. 1.
Real estate agent?
Office. First.
Oh, you're going to do that when you graduate?
Yes.
Okay.
Then teaching in like the next 10 years.
Okay.
I want to be old enough.
Okay.
I don't wanna
Have
be
some
a-
life
I don't wanna be a
experience.
young- I don't want to be a young teacher.
Okay. Yeah, it's tough.
And then maybe a nurse after that. Because
Okay.
I could just do nursing when I get older.
Okay, good. Well, you know, there's no limits on what you can be. You need to choose many things. Now, if you go back to probably your grandparents, great-grandparents, yeah, a lot of those folks picked a profession or worked in the business or a factory or whatever, and they did that job their entire life. Any of y'all have family like that? I mean, it's less and less than it used to be. But nowadays, people do multiple things in their life. I've worked with a number of nurses who become teachers, or teachers that become nurses, or exercise scientists that become nurses, and so respiratory therapists. Anybody interested in respiratory therapy? We have a school in Roanoke, that's why I was curious. Okay. Radiology is also in the healthcare field. So yeah, so dream big, and you never know, like you said, real estate teacher or nurse, like you can be a real estate agent and then you can teach real estate.
Yeah.
And then you can be a nurse and you can teach nursing, because that's what I do now. So I've done lots of different types of nursing. So are there any nurses in your family? Raise your hand high if you have a nurse in your family. Okay, what kind of nurse are they? There's lots of kinds of us. What kind of nurse? Where does she work? In like a med surg unit or? I don't know.
I'm not quite sure. She does different things. It just depends like where they get going.
So she's like a resource nurse.
Pretty much.
Yeah, they move all around. That's a way to get great experience. Yes. How about you got a nurse in your family?
Nurse practitioner.
Uh-huh. Where's that?
Lucille Wesley.
Louisville, Westlake, okay. Good, nurse practitioner, we're gonna talk about how you become one of those. Okay, who else has a nurse in their family? Yeah. Cardiology, that was my background.
I think my cousin is.
Yeah, good. Here in town? Oh, VCU, okay. Happy nurse?
I don't know her job title, but she works at the emergency room, like right now.
Okay, Franklin Memorial. In the emergency room, okay? Is that a relative, how close a relative?
My aunt.
Your aunt, okay. I encourage you after today, for the nurses you know in your life, to talk to them about nursing, even if you don't want to be a nurse.
She
Ask
tries to
them
persuade me every day.
to be a nurse.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right, how about y'all back there?
My mom.
Your mom's a nurse?
Yeah, I believe she was an LPN.
Okay,
She
great.
worked at one place, I don't remember where, and then she worked at UCL, and now she's working, I don't remember what it's called, but at people's houses.
Like home care, home health. Okay, excellent, good. So you have firsthand information of what it's like to live with a nurse. Yeah, and I'm sorry. Nurses are sometimes hard to live with. Yeah, how about you?
Well, my grandma, she's a retired nurse.
Okay.
I don't remember what kind of nurse she was,
Okay.
but my mom was also an LPN, I think. She was, when we were in Delaware, she was working at this one hospital, but there was a bunch of rooms. And like, it was kind of like they were just living in the rooms for real. Like, it was like a room with their own house, they had like a TV and a
Okay. All right, so even a different kind of nursing. So you've got a strong history in your family, your grandmother, and is your grandmother, you can talk to your grandmother these days? I would encourage you to ask her.
Well, right now, she's in the hospital, I think she talks.
Oh, no. Well, as soon as she can talk, talk to her about her background. I would encourage you to talk to your grandparents no matter what they did. You know, grandparents don't live forever. I know that's a hard reality, but they don't. And knowing what your grandparents did and remembering that for your life, then you can tell your children and they can tell their children. Because we sort of lose that these days. We don't do a lot of storytelling because we're always on our phones. And I mean, look, we're always on our phones. So talk to your older relatives, your parents, your grandparents, your aunts and your uncles. Find out what they did. Find out what made them tick. Find out what brought them the joy that they live in their life. Find those things out now, and they'll love you for it, because as you get older, and you don't have to be real old, but as you start getting older, it's what is called relevance. You become less relevant to the world as you age and when you're not involved in work anymore. And so having your young children, grandchildren, and relatives talk to you brings relevance to your life as you age. So those of you who've been worked in geriatrics, those kinds of things, make sure you do those conversations. Are those my list? Okay. All right, good. All right, and we've already talked about that, so we'll go to the next one. Okay, so this is what is nursing. So my guess is every single one of you could give me a definition of nursing. It may or may not be that actual definition of nursing, but it's probably shaped by who you've lived with, who you've known in your life that's a nurse, who you've watched from afar, but these days mostly it's influenced by what you see on TV, what you see on your phones, those kinds of things. So, and not all of it's accurate. So let's remember that. It's not what you see on TV. Some of the latest, Grey's Anatomy. How many of y'all are addicted to Grey's Anatomy?
I've watched it, but I know.
Yeah, my children are addicted. Both of my children are addicted to Grey's Anatomy. And I say I don't watch it, but every time it's on, I'm like, what happened? What'd they say? And there's some reality in there. There's some reality in all healthcare shows, a little bit. But there's then a lot of technical stuff is not correct. Like you see IVs put in funky places and tubes in weird places and taped weird ways, and you think that's just not reality. And then there's some conversations that are not real either. And all the drama that you see in these drama TV shows, now because there can be times where there's not much happening, where you're just taking care of people and there's not anything really exciting happening. Unless you happen to choose a part of nursing that everything's real exciting a lot of the time, like the emergency room in a big city. Yeah, because in a smaller hospital, it's not necessarily always high drama. So, it's not what you see on social media, not what you see on TikTok, Instagram, all those things. Now, there are some nurses out there, just like in every profession, there are some nurses out there who have made it their mission to be visible on TikTok, Instagram, etc. And their messages are not always accurate either. I watched one the other day. I was with a coworker of mine, and it was a nurse who was presenting information on TikTok about how awful her organization was. And that's not smart. That's not good as a nurse, as us who present our profession.
Not professional.
It's not professional. And we have to do a better job in our own profession of helping nurses be professional out in the public. Not always intense action, I already said that. And these are the definitions according to the ANA. It's the coordinator, we're the coordinators of healthcare for individuals and populations. So not just one person, but families and communities. And I've already mentioned that it's an opportunity to serve people in their most vulnerable times of life. Requires education. You can't just want to be a nurse and be a nurse. You have to go to school to become a nurse. There are licensing exams, certification exams. So you got to go to school. It's not a choice to not go to school. Empathy, you have to put yourself in other people's shoes. You have to know what it feels like to be ill, to be sick, to be dying, to be healthy, to be well. And we really want to shift the model in our country to preventative health care instead of curative. Does everybody understand what that means? We want to be able to create a situation in our country and in our world, really, where we're all focused on things that make us healthier so that we don't get ill, rather than the old model of healthcare, which the one I've lived in many years of my professional life, where we're diagnosing and treating people all the time. You know, you go to see your physician, your provider, and you get a medication, and you go home and you take the medication for the rest of your life. Versus, weight is a perfect example. I've struggled with weight my entire life, being overweight, and you go in, they give you a pill or give you a drug, or we all know what we need to do to lose weight, right? You have to eat less calories than you exude, and exercise and activity, and we just don't do it because of the choices we make. And so anyway, you have to be able to, we need to change our model of healthcare, and we're getting there slowly but surely. But that's why we need people like athletic trainers and nutritionists, dietitians, those kind of people to help us get there. Respect, you have to respect other people where they are, which, I think your generation is better at that than any generation that has come to this point. At least that's been my experience. You understand that people make different choices or have different beliefs and different values. And I encourage you to keep doing that, because in healthcare, you have to respect someone else's wishes. And in my particular profession and my professional life, some of the biggest things that came through in time, and they're old news at this point, but when HIV and AIDS came in, that was in the 80s, which is a long time ago, but I was a nurse then, and so taking care of people who had HIV and AIDS was a big issue for some nurses who had different belief systems about sexuality and personal habits and addictions and those kinds of things. And then the other one is abortion. As a nurse, you have to take care of people who may or may not believe the same way you do about that particular healthcare personal issue. So you have to respect other people where they are. And compassion, it's because it's not just a job. Nursing is part of who you are from the time you start nursing school all the way through until your life ends, whether you choose to practice as a nurse or not. So, enough of that. We're the backbone of healthcare. This is from the American Nurses Association, which is actually our governing body, I guess you would call it, for nurses. It's the group that lobbies for us in DC to get our policies the way they need to be so that we can practice to the full scope of our license, those kinds of things. And it's wherever it's needed. So nurses practice everywhere, as already mentioned. I have a good friend who now is a surveyor for, it's called the Joint Commission, which is a big organization, international organization that goes all across the world accrediting healthcare organizations, saying that they provide good quality care. And she right now is on an Indian reservation out in Colorado. And so just cool places to end up in the world if you choose to do so. So nursing, we've been ranked as the most trusted profession, and actually it's 22 years now. We need to update that, 22 years in a row. So these are the other places. Second place was physicians, third place pharmacists, fourth place high school teachers, and fifth place police officers. Most trusted profession, which doesn't mean every single nurse can be trusted, because you probably see in the news, there's nurses that get convicted of some pretty horrific things, like intentionally killing people, and, because as a registered nurse, you have that ability.
Yeah.
You have access to the meds, you have access to the drugs, you have access to the bad things that you could do to people. Yes?
I saw one case from a few years ago. This man died, and 5 minutes after he died, his nurse stole his credit card
evil. I mean, just
Right,
evil
just-
behavior.
just wrong.
Yeah, just wrong, flat out wrong, yeah. And there's a number of cases, and it tends to be like in nursing homes, that you hear that more often, where people give medications and assist in helping people move on to the next layer of life, after life. And, but you know, that's illegal. We're not supposed to do that. We're supposed to sustain life and maintain people's wishes. So, yeah, it's there. It happens. You know, there's evil people in every sector of the world, and nursing's not immune to that. So, unfortunately, thank goodness it's not often. Oh shoot, what happened to my? Oh, okay. True or false? Here's some questions for you. Nurses are the largest profession in healthcare. That one's supposed to come up.
I already knew it was true, but I didn't even see it. I didn't see the true part.
These are our stats. 4.2 million nurses in the United States. That's a lot of people. Yeah. And 88% are women. Does that surprise you? 12% are men. But I tell you, back when I started being a nurse, the percentage was like 1% were men. And but now more men are joining the world of nursing, and that's an amazing thing. It's wonderful, and for lots of reasons. All right. The next question. My numbers are not supposed to be coming up.
I don't think.
1 in every 100 people is a registered nurse. So that's just an FYI. And then nurses are in every community, and I've already said that. Yeah, that's true. Sorry, it was supposed to be one of those, you know, like pops
Yeah.
up, but oh well. All right, nursing crisis. Anybody heard about the nursing crisis?
Not enough people, not enough nurses.
Not enough nurses, not enough people.
There's not
What,
anything.
what else? I don't know if it's on my slide. There's not enough teachers to teach
Yeah.
nurses. And so schools all across the country are not able to admit the number of people that apply because there's not enough of people like me who teach nursing to bring them all in to the courses. So at James Madison University, where I teach, we have huge application list. I don't know the numbers. I should have found that out, but I don't know. But we only accept about 200 a year. And at JMU, you go to school 2 years. You do your freshman and sophomore year, and in your sophomore year, you apply to the nursing program. So just because you get in JMU doesn't mean you get into the nursing program. You come in as nursing as your declared major, but you have to then apply to get into nursing, and then there's only, out of all the hundreds that apply, only 200 get in per year. So that's sad because we need more nurses, but we don't have enough people to teach them. So, and we're getting ready to build a new building and hire more people at JMU, but we're a state school, so we depend on state funding. So there's all these little pieces that you learn as you move through life. And there's at least a 6% increase projected each year in RN jobs through 2031. So if you're looking for job security, you want something in healthcare, and you want to be able to live anywhere you want to in the world, especially in our country, there's some nuances if you live in other countries and how you get licensed, all that kind of stuff. But you can do it. Be a nurse. There's job securities everywhere. Think about all the crises that are going on in our world, all the unfortunate conflicts and wars and the things that are happening in some of our own cities, and who takes care of these people that are killing each other, harming each other, injuring each other? Nurses. So there's job security. That kind of stuff's not going away, unfortunately. Okay, different types of nurses. Some of you mentioned some of them. Are all of you aware of these? There's different categories. There's registered nurses who go to, and I'll share lots of different kinds of ways to become a nurse. Advanced practice nurses, which means you've gone for advanced degrees, at least a master's degree or beyond. And these are the different types there. Nurse practitioners, which you mentioned you have in your family. Anybody know what a nurse midwife does? The ones that have the babies, the ones that birth the babies, right? That's right. And that's becoming more common again. Many years ago, nurse midwives were way out in the country, out in the Midwest. That's really the only people that delivered babies were midwives. And now it's sort of coming back around to where, because we don't have enough physician providers in OBGYN, there's lots of reasons why we don't. Much of that is around how much they have to pay for insurance. I don't know if you know this, but when you're born, people can sue for malpractice and those kinds of things until you're 18 years old. So if you happen to be an OBGYN, every baby you deliver for all those years, I mean, you retire, and then 18 years later, you could still be sued if something happened to that individual that they could link back to the birth process. So it's a tough field to be in, expensive malpractice insurance. Yeah, you got a question? Yeah, okay. And nurse anesthetist, what's that?
The gas you put your sleep.
They gas you, put you to sleep, that's right. My stepson's wife is a nurse anesthetist. Amazing field, great for people who like technical things, like to administer medications. You're in an operating room the whole time you're working. You have some interaction with people, but minimal. And it's a very needed job. Again, it's a tough school because you have to know a lot about a lot of really powerful drugs. And so it's a great profession. We need more nurse anesthetists. And then clinical nurse specialists, which just means you specialize in an area. And many clinical nurse specialists, I won't say all, but many work in hospital settings. So cardiology, clinical nurse specialist, or pulmonology, clinical nurse specialist. They have specialties, and they're an advanced practice nurse. And then licensed practical nurses, some of you already mentioned, that typically takes a little less school than to be in an RN, but you can also bridge. Once you're an LPN, you can become an RN in a hot second. And it doesn't take but about a year after you finished your LPN to go on and become an RN. So and LPNs frequently, right now in our country, many times work in long-term care. There's a lot of jobs in long-term care, geriatrics for LPNs. All right, and this is another one. So you already know the answer, but there's multiple ways to become a nurse, not just one way, which is challenging for our profession because it's not like becoming a physician, where there's actually a couple ways to become a physician, but one way, you go to 4 years of regular school for a physician, then you go to medical school, then you do a residency, and then you get out, and you're a physician. Take your board too. Well, nursing, the first way to become a registered nurse, the least time involved and the least expensive, is to get an associate degree, which is a 2-year degree. These are the schools in our region that offer an associate degree in nursing. And that's Galen College of Nursing, that's affiliated with HCA, Lewis Gale Hospital itself also. And if you go through Roanoke, it's on 419 out near Lewis Gale Hospital. There's Patrick and Henry Community College. I still can't say Patrick and Henry to me, it's Patrick Henry Community College. But they have a RN program. Virginia Western Community College, which is where I started out. And then ECPI. And there may be others, but those are the ones I'm aware of. So those are all 2-year programs. It's a little deceiving though, because 2-year program, you also have to take English and psychology and math and those kinds of things. So some people it takes 3 because you do like a year of prereqs and then move into that. It's also very competitive in the 2-year programs because you're not just competing against other 17, 18-year-olds, you're competing against 20, 30, 40, 50-year-olds that are out in the world already and decide to go back to school. So you're competing for slots in those nursing programs with a wider audience. Maybe not as many people, but a wider audience. And then there's the bachelor's degree route. That's your 4-year degree. These are the schools that are in our region, I guess I should say. There's more in the state of Virginia. And then there's, across the country, there's hundreds. This is where I teach, James Madison University. There's Averett University, which is not that far away. Liberty University, Bradford University, where I used to teach. And then ECPI, it's a 4-year degree. Longwood University, and then there's Radford University, Carillion, which is in Roanoke. And then there's others. There's UVA, there's VCU, there's Old Dominion University, there's Shenandoah University. I mean, I could go on and on. Lots in Virginia. Advanced nursing education, I won't go into a lot of detail here, but there's accelerated degrees for people who already have a bachelor's degree. So let's say you go to school, somebody said psychology. Who said psychology? Psychology. Did you go to school for psychology, you graduate, and you're like, I think I want to be a nurse. Then there's accelerated programs that you can go to where it only takes you about 16 months, and then you can sit for your licensure exam. Then there's master's degree programs, typically offered at 4-year colleges. And you have to have at least a master's degree to be a nurse practitioner, a nurse executive, or a clinical nurse leader. So, and then doctoral degrees, there's the Doctor of Nursing Practice, which is what I have, which is akin to, like, a dentist goes to a clinical doctorate, a physician gets a clinical doctorate, An educator might get an education doctorate. A preacher, a minister might get a doctor in theology. You have doctorates of sociology. You have doctorates of lots of things. And doctors of theater, I forget to bring that one up. Doctorates of library science. There's all kinds of doctorates. But in nursing, there's two primary doctorates. One is the Doctor of Nursing Practice, which is practice-oriented, and means, like for me, I was a nurse executive, meaning I was a leader within the healthcare system for many years. So my doctorate is in leadership and leadership practice in a healthcare setting. And then the PhD is a research doctorate. Those are the nurses who get their doctorate and they do research. Some of them do bench research where they're in a lab and they're helping discover new cures for things. Others do clinical research at the bedside, helping determine is this or this a better thing for the outcome of the patient, whatever it might be. Like, is this drug or this drug better for the outcome for patients? So, two different directions to go there. And at most universities, there's a balance of Doctor of Nursing Practice and PhDs in nursing education. And then these are the typical admission requirements for a baccalaureate degree. We would like in nursing as a profession for our nurses to all come out with a bachelor's degree, to all come at that level. But however, because of supply and demand and we need more and more nurses, associate degree is a fine way to get there. It's right now. But over time, we would like for it to be the bachelor's degree. Many of you may know occupational therapists, physical therapists. They have been able as a profession to shift to where you have to have your doctorate to get licensed. So they're working hard to raise the level of their profession so that you have to have a doctorate before you can ever sit for the license. Nursing hasn't been able to accomplish that yet because supply and demand. We need more of us, and it takes a long time to get your doctorate. It's not like snap your fingers. So we right now can get your RN in 2 years. Telling people they got to go 5, 6, 7 years to become an RN. We're not so sure people want to do that, especially if you're not sure that's what you want to do, right? Okay, so these are the admission requirements. Anybody have a question about these? I won't read through these. It's a pretty hefty GPA. Some schools higher than that. Some of them are 3.2. Well, across the country, a lot of high school seniors don't have great GPAs. So, but the main thing actually comes down here. Previous studies in chemistry, biology, physiology, those kinds of things. Many times the GPA requirement for those courses is higher. So you have to make a B in those things, so 3.0 or greater. And some schools are even higher than that. So the competition to get into nursing is tough. It's tough. And if you don't do well in a science course, microbiology, anatomy, physiology, you just take it again until you get it, kind of thing. You might not graduate in the moment that you thought you were going to, but just keep trying. Because all of these courses are doable. But not everybody's a science person. But you gotta have some basic science knowledge to get through some of the nursing courses. Okay. This is ours at JMU, the 3.0 admission. They have to have at least 36 credits, excuse me, and they have to be enrolled. That's sort of a no-brainer. And then declared as a nursing major, which I was telling you about. They come to school for 2 years and then have to apply for the nursing program. And then they can't have any grades lower than a C- in any prerequisite course. So it's sort of a moving target, because you can have a GPA of 3.0 but have had a D in something because everything else is really good. But if it's lower than a C-, you still can't get it in. So it's all a projection thing. It's like, how well do you have to do in this, and this in order for us to be assured that you're capable and to pass some of the courses? Because you may or may not know this, in nursing schools, we're measured at a national level by our board pass rate. So if you're thinking about going to nursing school, you need to look at the school you're interested in and find out what the board pass rate is. Because you want to go somewhere that most of their people pass the boards. You don't want to get out of school and they have a 70% pass rate, which means 30 out of every 100 don't pass the boards. So you want to go somewhere that has a pretty high pass rate. At JMU, we're in the upper 90s. So it's a strong program. And some of our associate degree programs around here are close to 100, because the associate degree programs are intense. Okay, so here's what people want to know. How much do nurses make? Right?
A lot.
right out of school with a 2-year degree, this could be your average salary.
It's good.
That's very good. That's very good. That's very good. Now, that comes with weekends, holidays, nights, crazy shifts, those kinds of things. And you can increase that potential earning if you're willing to work the weekends, and nights, and 12-hour shifts, and differential pay, and all those kinds of things. But this is some of the latest information I have. This is actually from 2021. It's probably higher than that now. So, this is across the country, gives you an idea like where you live. But remember, where you live also has different cost of living. Y'all know about cost of living? Like to buy a house in Virginia is different than buying a house in California. So, like California, a starting pay is around $120,000. But you know, your houses, like here, a $200,000 house there is $500,000. So you've got to know your landscape, where you're moving to. Some other high-paying, New York's $90,000, Florida's around 70 as well, Texas 77. Yeah. So any questions about that? No. The one that always amazes me is Oregon, way out there is 96,000. That's high. Okay. Here's the different. I'm just going to click through these and y'all can read them. These are, and you probably all know this in your life. These are all the different places nurses can work. Radiology, oncology, ambulatory, which means like outpatient. When you go to your outpatient clinics and go from your sore throats and colds, there's nurses there. Surgery centers, home health, somebody mentioned that, hospice, palliative care, public health, health departments. Any of y'all ever been to a health department? Health departments where you can go and get your vaccinations and those physicals and your sports physical. You can get lots of things in the health department. And this is the job line that most of us, even nurses that have been practicing for a long time, forget. But these are some jobs that nurses are in. It's policy government positions. There are, I should know the number, but I don't. There's a handful of nurses that are in our national legislature, that are senators and congressmen. And then there are people in numerous states, numerous nurses in state government. And then one of my dear colleagues has been involved in policy making in Virginia and at the national level for her whole career. And I'll give you a specific example. Some of the nurses I work with now are nurse practitioners. And during COVID, nurse practitioners needed to be able to practice at the full scope of their license, which means nurse practitioners can hang up a shingle. You know what that means? Start their own business. They can hang up a shingle, and they have to have an affiliation with a physician, but they're not supervised, like I'm watching you every minute.
Yeah.
And during COVID, a lot of the laws and rules around what they could and couldn't do got less strenuous because we needed more people to be able to be seen by video and all these things. And then as soon as COVID was over, the physician lobbyist wanted to shut it all back down because it could mean money for them. Like somebody else gets paid for doing something that they can do. However, there's not enough physicians. So what I'm getting to is one of my colleagues, she was one of the lead lobbyists in Virginia going to, I forgot what they call it. Not protest, it's not the right word, that's the word in my brain right now. We're going to present to Congress and to the Senate about why we needed laws to stay the way they were during COVID so that nurses can continue to provide care. And in Virginia, we got it approved. So nurses have a place in government and policy. And I teach policy where I am. I'm big into policy. I teach a Health Policy Institute, Health Policy Certificate. So some of you who want to be in healthcare, but then you graduate with your exercise science degree, your psychology degree, or your other healthcare kind of degree, and then you want to know more about health policy, but you're not a nurse, then James Madison University is going to have a health policy certificate. So you can do a postgraduate certificate in health policy and become more aware of what's going on. Because everything we do, all of what gets paid for, what gets provided, who does what, that's all governed by our national government. And then higher education, which is what I do now, professors, clinical instructors, and lots of other roles in nursing. So that's just a quick glance at nursing. All right, this is me, just a quick snapshot. I got my associate degree first. right out of high school. I was 19 when I graduated from nursing school. I was young. I was really young. At 19 when I got out of nursing school and became licensed. And then it was a few years later, not too many, less than 5, I went back for my bachelor's degree. And that's called an RN to BSN, because I was already licensed as an RN. I went back to get my bachelor's degree through Radford University. And then I got my Master of Science in Nursing from the University of Virginia. And this is all before I had Mrs. Wheeler. So I did all this over a number of years before I had her. And then I got my Doctor of Nursing Practice when Chris Kate, my youngest daughter, I started this when she was 3. I thought I was going to go nuts. I was like, am I really doing this? And I said, I'm not doing this. So I had to take a doctoral statistics class. And she was 3. And she was sitting on my lap at the dining room table. And I don't know if any of y'all have ever taken statistics, but it's a tough class. Anybody taking statistics? Well, you imagine it at the doctoral level. I mean, and our professors made you do everything by hand. We couldn't do, I mean, this wasn't that long ago, but you had to do it all. You had to show that you knew the thinking process. And I was like, I'm not going to take another class. I'm done. I'm not getting my doctorate. Well, I got an A in the class, and so guess what? I kept going, and then I finished. But I went to Case Western Reserve University in Cleveland, Ohio. So those are mine. That's my background in education. These are the types of nursing that I've done. Cardiology, cardiac surgery, intensive care, which is where my youngest daughter now works as a nursing assistant while she's in school. She's in the same unit that I worked in, and one of the nurses that I was a nurse manager there that I hired 40 years ago is still there. Yeah, she's still there. I was like, I don't know how she does all that, but she's still there. Patient care manager, director, that's when you get into leadership and you are all about evaluating and helping quality improve and all those kinds of things. I was director of nursing of a hospital. I was hospital director. I was an administrator for cardiology, oncology, radiology. So about my first half of my career, my professional life was in executive leadership and healthcare leadership within hospitals and organizations. And I did director of cardiology for Carilion Clinic, and then administrative director for graduate medical education, which is where people who want to be physicians, they go to medical school and then they move into a graduate medical education program as for the residency. And I did that for a number of years. And then all along, I was faculty somewhere. I taught adjunct at Radford and at Virginia Western and JMU. And then I was full-time at Jefferson. And when I became full-time faculty at Jefferson College, that's when I finished my doctorate. Because when you teach in, I don't know if you all know this, but when you go to college, you go to a 4-year school, most of your professors have at least a master's degree, if not a doctorate. And that's required by our educational system. You have to have a doctorate in order to, you have to always have 1 degree higher than what you're teaching. Except at the doctoral level, you're teaching doctoral students. But in order to teach master's level, you have to have a doctorate. In order to teach baccalaureate, you have to have a master's. So as you think about that as you move through your career. And then I was faculty at Virginia Tech Carilion School of Medicine, program director of the doctoral program at James Madison University. I'm one of those people, I retired from Carilion. I've been there 33 years. I left. I retired from Carilion and I moved to JMU, and I've been there 8 years. So, and then now I'm faculty. I'm no longer in the director role for the program. I guess in most languages you would say you step down. I stepped down from the leadership role and now I teach and I direct doctoral projects. So this is where I am now. I already mentioned I teach at JMU. I'm an author. I've authored several books. I've authored parts of several books, many of them about many different things. One was about nursing errors, how we can prevent nursing errors. The ones most recently are about a thing called implementation science, which is all about quality and improvement in healthcare, and also on doctoral projects, how to do those and how to help other faculty learn how to do those. And the one I'm working on right now is about mentoring and coaching, which is about helping others become their best self. So those are, and then I'm a researcher as well. I have numerous studies published and I present nationally and internationally about the work that I've done throughout my whole life and the work that I'm doing now. So a whole different avenue of nursing than taking care of patients every day. And then I volunteered for the Virginia Medical Reserve Board. I started that during COVID. And so I went back to my roots and gave vaccinations for a while. I mean, I didn't do it full time. I just did it on a volunteer basis. And that was a wonderful but enlightening enlightening experience. Seeing there's a lot of fear around the vaccinations and that kind of thing, but it was a great experience, and hopefully it did some good for me. Let's see. Okay, so that's all my prepared stuff. That's a lot of stuff. A lot of stuff. I appreciate those of you staying awake. I know it's hard to listen to somebody talk over, and I have sort of a low, like done early. And I get done early. Well, I'm not quite done. I'm not quite done. All right. Okay. Let's see. Oh, these are good. These are great. So a couple of little stories I want to tell you. But these are great. Did I say these things?
I don't know, Mr. Meany,
Yes.
Mercer Meany, did I say these things?
You did.
Okay. All right. So I've been doing this, talking to seniors. This is my, 5th year? 4th year?
You
How long have I
started
been
the
doing
first year. Because the end of the first year because it was COVID, so it's almost been 5 years.
this? Okay. So I've been doing, and as you can tell, I get excited about nursing. I get excited about talking to young folks like you. And I know that there's lots of things, other things going through your brain right now. But one of the things I love the most about talking with you all is just sharing life's lessons. It's like, if I were back in your shoes, what would I want to hear someone say about their life's journey? Because I'm not where you are. I'm on the other end. I'm on the end of not that far from real retirement. So like where I just say, okay, I've contributed. I'm ready to move on to the next stage. And your wonderful teachers have asked me to share some of the life's lessons that I've shared in other classes through the past, and it makes me feel good to think that they were meaningful. So one of the things that I always say is follow your heart. You know, not everybody's going to agree with your journey. It may be your parents that disagree. It may be your siblings. It may be your grandparents. It may be your friends. And make the choices. But if you are passionate about something, continue to pursue it. Don't let anybody stop you. I know y'all heard these stories in athletes across the country. Michael Jordan didn't make his high school basketball team, right? Y'all know that? If you didn't even make his high school basketball team his freshman year, I think. So, Oprah Winfrey, she's been fired from numerous jobs before she hit it big. Think about all the entertainers that didn't make it big until somebody happened to see them somewhere. You know, the world's changing because you all have all the social media stuff, so people can become famous lots of different ways. But if that's one of your goals, then you just keep working toward whatever it is, whether it be singing, acting, dancing, healthcare, engineering, whatever it is, keep pursuing it. And educate the people who are naysayers. So let's say somebody says you don't want to do that. Don't let them influence you if you've decided that that's what you want to do, even if it's your parents. Now, you go home and tell your parents. The speaker today said, don't listen to your parents.
How many of you in my class have already heard me say that?
Oh, you say that?
So many times.
Well, I'll give you an example of Miss Wheeler. How about this? Miss Wheeler, since she was 10 years old, wanted to be a performer, right? Singer, dancer, actor.
She did that.
She did that. But how many people told her from the time she was 10 years old until now that it's not a good choice?
Probably a lot.
Because you can't make much money. You can't, you know, there's thousands of people wanting that same dream, right? Broadway. She want to go to Broadway, right? Well, when she finished college, guess where she went?
Probably.
New York City.
Yeah.
New York City. She went to New York City. She lived there for several years. She worked on the East Coast in performing. She had an agent. She was a performer, singer, dancer, actor. She did all kinds of things for several years, and then her husband came into the picture, and he was from this county, and she called me one day and she said, Mama, I think I'm coming home. And I said, you are? And she said, yeah, I don't even realize I live in New York City. Because when you do what she did for several years, you live in New York City, you pay an exorbitant amount for rent. She'd go to auditions at 4 a.m. 4 a.m. to sign up for an audition.
Then go to work.
Huh?
Then go to work.
Then go to work.
Then go to my audition.
Then go to audition. Then get called back. You know, because she was good. She's good. She'd go back and she'd get called back, and then she may or may not get a job. You may hear people in her industry that, you know, for every 99 auditions you get one callback. Not one job, one callback, which means you come back to do it again. So there are lots of other professions similar to that. Nursing happens to be one that if you are a good communicator, you can interview well, and you have the background and the education, is it's not that hard to find a job. So that's a different kind of world to live in. But the point of what I'm trying to say is she was told no so many times, and she was also told by adults who cared about her that this is not a good choice. There's so many other people that can do what you do. And Mary Hannah's response, Miss Wheeler's response was always, well, if not me, then who? Why not me? Why can't I do it? So I want you to keep that mindset. Why not me? If somebody says, oh, that's not a good choice, well, why not me? Somebody needs to do it. The world needs to. Her philosophy was always, I want to bring the world joy. Well, as most of you know, she's gone on to move into the role she's in now, and I think she still brings joy in a totally different way, but connected to her lifelong dream. So just remember those things. And what I want to share with you is that people tell you no a lot. I was told no many years ago. Miss Armini loves the story.
It's my favorite story.
Yeah, the story.
Oh, Miss Steve said me too.
Oh, Miss Deems too. I can't say Miss Deems in there. When I was your age, one of the schools, four-year schools that I wanted to go to so bad, or badly, I don't know how to say that in Miss English. Is it bad or badly? Y'all know? I wanted to go. I wanted to go to this school, to James Madison University. And guess what? I
Yes, sir.
Who said that?
Ethan.
And look at you teaching.
I know. I got a rejection.
You got rejected.
From JMU. You know, my name was Scruggs. Dear Jeannie Scruggs, whatever it says.
That's my favorite part. There's
We
an
regret
end
to
story.
inform you. Now, this is old, long time ago, 40-some years ago, and it was typed on a typewriter. It's like, can you imagine how long it took them to do all that? But James Madison University used to be a teaching school. It was all women. I don't know if y'all know that. That was way back when. Well, it was a few years before I graduated from high school. And by the time I graduated, they wanted male students. So I was in the top 30 of my high school graduating class. I had an excellent GPA. I didn't have 4.0, but I had an excellent GPA, and I got rejected from James Madison University. Well, that was part of it. But there was only one person in my whole class that got in, and she was 10th in our class, ranked 10th. I don't know if y'all do ranks
We don't.
anymore, but we used to do ranks. Like, there were 268 people in my class, and I was in the top 30. So I felt pretty good about that. I felt good about, ready to move forward in college. But the most important thing is, guess where that letter is?
In your office.
In my office. It's hanging on my wall in my office, because now for the last 8 years they've been paying my salary. But they rejected me back when I was 17 years old. So the story there is, don't give up on your dreams, and don't let anybody tell you you can't do something, because you come back around and do it a different way. Okay. So I didn't get admitted as a student, but now I teach there. So carry that with you. That's a fun story kind of thing. My husband told me the other day, he said, when you retire, really retire, like from this job, he said, you got to hang that letter in your office at home. Because it's just such a reminder on a day-to-day basis that you just got to keep on going. You got to keep on plugging along.
When you got hired, did you tell them that?
No, I don't know that anybody that works there knows that. Maybe I'll tell them when I retire.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. So, learn from your disappointments. That's part of that. Find your why. I don't know if I said that already, but find your why. Oh, I did say that because I talked about my girls. But find your why. Like, why do I want to, what do I want to do, and why do I want to do it? And then the other question along with that is, what brings you joy? What do you do once a month, once a week, every day, that when you're doing it, you don't want to stop doing it, whatever it is. If it's playing a musical instrument, if it's performing, if it's dancing, if it's learning about how things work, learning how brains work. Somebody said they want to know about how brains work. Understanding those kinds of things. What are the things that make you feel energized and interested, and you just want to know more? That's what you need to go for. Some other things about that. If you are an outdoor person, what kind of job do you want?
Outdoor job.
An outdoor job. You don't want to be sitting at a computer behind a desk. If you like to be outside. If you are an introvert and prefer not to be around people, that's not the way you get your energy. Would you want a job doing what I'm doing right now?
Yes, I would. not like.
But an introvert would not. Somebody who's quiet and like into themselves and likes to, I mean, that's not a negative. That's just the way they prefer to be. They may want to be something else. They may want a computer desk job or a job that requires less interaction with people. Some of us like to communicate and like that cycle. Some of us don't. And that doesn't mean it's good, bad. You just need to make sure you pick something that, you know, people go to school to do engineering or something, and then all the phone's ringing. Who is calling? Okay. So pick something that sort of brings you joy. All right. I said so. Find your passion and go for it. It's on my list. Oh, this is a good one. Ask questions until you find the answers. So just if you don't get the answer from you, then go ask you. If you don't get the answer from you, go ask you. You all have the wonderful at your fingertips. You can ask all kinds of things. Chat GPT. Anybody use Chat GPT? It's not a bad thing to use Chat
I don't know.
If you don't know how to use it.
You don't know what it is?
What is this?
If you
Artificial
don't know how to
intelligence.
use it, it's bad, so tell them how to use it.
Oh yeah, just if you use it, it's not bad.
But they should be using it for our class.
No, you shouldn't be using it to write your papers.
I'm glad I don't know.
Yeah. However, in one of my doctor's classes, I have an assignment with ChatGPT. And what they do is they write their own work, and then they use the prompt in ChatGPT to see how close it is to what they wrote. It's not like, and then some of my classes, they use it as an editor. So that's common, all the artificial intelligence stuff. And that will be infused no matter where you go to school, no matter where you are in life, you will hear more and more about that as time moves forward. So ask questions, but you can ask to me, ChatGPT is sort of like Google on steroids. It's like you have a question, Mike?
I use ChatGPT for writing
For what?
writing ideas.
Writing ideas? Yeah, it's excellent. You know, you can use it for like, you need to write, well, I don't know if this is allowed, but like you can use it for writing a recommendation letter. Like I use it when I write recommendation letters for my former students. I'll say, compose me a recommendation letter for a doctoral student who has these qualities. And I'll list 5 things. And it pops up. And I don't use it word for word, but I edit it and make it my own. So that saves a lot of time. It also can give you ideas, like he said. Don't settle. That's another one of mine. Don't settle for something just because it's the easiest route. Sometimes the most difficult journeys bring you the best blessings and the best outcomes in the long run. So don't settle. Always give credit to those who helped you along the way. Always say thank you, whether that's someone you hardly know, whether it's your family, whether it's a friend, whether it's a former teacher. Always make sure that people know that you value how they influenced you. Another thing with that pertains to English is always give credit to people who wrote or found whatever evidence you found. Make sure you always cite other people's work. And when you're presenting information or when you're just sharing, always say, this person came up with this idea. Don't take credit for things that you didn't come up with. Ask for help when you need it. Said offer help when you can. Always extend a hand and you'll get one in return. Do good, be kind, and know that you're enough. How many of you all heard that story? Always be humble and kind. And always know that where you are is enough. And where you are today may not be where you'll be next week. May not be where you'll be in a year. May not be where you'll be in 2 years, 4 years. Some of you are going to experience tough times in the next few years. What you dreamed of doesn't seem like it's going to come true. And you need to rethink. Well, it doesn't mean you have to throw it away. Maybe you just need to put it on pause and do some other things for a year or 2. My youngest daughter did that. She wasn't really sure, and so she put things sort of on pause, got into a job that fed her passion, and that's where she found her life. So remember, you do not have to measure up, and I know this is tough for your generation with all the social media stuff. You know, everybody looks like they're all happy, and you know, well, that's not true. Y'all know that. You know that's not true. So do not measure yourself according to what everybody else is doing. There's a number of you, I'm sure, that are going to go to schools, and 4 years from right now, you're going to be graduating.